Welcome everybody to Respawn Please, the weekly video game podcast where two dum-dums come together to talk all things video games. I'm your host, Jesus, and with me, as always, is the wondrous, stupendous, the former Mercy Main, my best friend, and now a married man, Ell. Ell, how's it going?
Great delivery.
I took all the notes that you had for me because for the peek behind the curtain, everybody, we've had to redo this intro several times because I keep messing up and Al keeps giving me notes. And so this is the first time he's been positive.
Oh my God. Every other time I've been like, horrible. No.
He's the real reason why I've been having to restart.
No, I've been great. I feel good to be here. Excited to talk video games. But how are you?
I'm good. I'm full of energy right now. I'm cranked up. Yeah, that was a movie, right? With Jason Statham. Yeah. Anyways, I'm cranked up, not on electricity like he was, right? He had to like grab things, right?
He had to had to constantly keep his heart like at a certain like rate because I think if he didn't, he would just like die. He had to keep that excitement going or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I am cranked up on Coca-Cola. I feel like I needed to say Coca-Cola there because if I would have just said I'm cranked up on Coke, that would have sounded bad.
That would have sounded bad.
I have Coke. There's no alcohol or anything in this. This is just me, high energy, being laser focused. But we're here about video games, Ell. And so I want to ask you, what you've been playing this week? Have you been playing anything fun?
Yeah. So, no, yeah. Well, the first thing I'll get this out the way. I've played a little Overwatch because I was trying to finish the season pass.
Sorry, I just threw up everywhere.
We have to restart. No, but I've been playing a little Overwatch, trying to go through the season pass just so I can get through it all, and I just kind of play that a little bit daily. But besides that, I finally, which we'll get to later this month, I finished Cocoon finally, nice. Which will go in depth, but I enjoyed it. Finished Cocoon. I've been going through Red Dead Redemption 1, and then now a little bit of Starfield. And I want to say, lastly, I think that might be it for what I remember, because I thought there was one more game, but maybe I'm misremembering. I have been thinking about going back through Slay the Spire and continuing as the Watcher, but I haven't had a chance to play that yet. But other than that, that's what I've been playing. What about you?
Nice. So backtrack real quick. You're playing Red Dead Redemption on your Switch, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that? How does that feel?
It feels good. The only issue that I've encountered with it occasionally is like, and it's not a lot when I say this, but it was like a random like frame rate drop or like a stuttering thing. But it only happened to me, I kid you not, maybe like twice in my whole playthrough. I'm almost finished with it. And so it only happened towards the end where sometimes the game gets a little wonky. Like if you call your horse over to you, sometimes it'll walk to you, then it'll do like a spin and then it'll do this real random crazy things. And you're like, what the heck? And then it goes back to normal. But it's not game breaking. And so that's the only issue that I encountered. But other than that, it's been running smoothly at whatever 30 frames that it's locked at or whatever.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. And the horse like spinning wasn't like a normal thing that happened back in the old game?
Not
like
that
it's not a bug that just carried over?
Not that I remember, because like the horse gets like wonky. That it might be part of the game, and I might just be thinking it's not. But
it's a feature of the game. They put it on the box. Horse, spinning horses,
just like 360s and stuff.
It's new technology.
Exactly.
Advertised on the back of the box.
But other than that, no, that's it. Oh, and then yesterday I did encounter one new thing that I never saw, which is I was on some mission where I was trying to find Dutch Vanderland, and I was traveling with a group of like police to go get him, and then I think I had to do something, so I paused the game, and then I went to go do something, came back after like a minute or two, and then I unpaused the game, and for some reason it felt like the game continued on without me, so I was by myself, and it said you have to catch up with your group, and I was like, but I paused the game. Like, why did it do this? It was just very random.
Maybe there's no pausing in Red Dead Redemption.
Maybe not.
Who would have known? Yeah. For games I've been playing, Alan Wake 2, still chipping away at that game. Man, oh man. Ell.
Mm-hmm.
I've been so like it feels like I say this with every big game release. Is like this might be my game of the year. This might be my game of the year. It's definitive now. Like right now, it's a tie between Alan Wake and Baldur's Gate 3 for me.
Oh.
Like Alan Wake 2 is just so damn good, man. Like the story, characters, everything is just it's just fantastic. We're gonna talk about this later on in the show, specifically about game developers, game studios, and stuff. But man, Remedy, God, this is like Remedy's best game in my opinion, and I have a lot to say about it. Like Remedy might be coming up there as one of my favorite studios because like I just can't think of a game that I have not liked by them. Because like I love Control. I love the Max Payne games when you go all the way back to 2001 and 2003, 4 for Max Payne 2. I never actually played Max Payne 3, but I believe that wasn't Remedy. I think that was just Rockstar. So with Max Payne 3, Rockstar was like the publishers for Max Payne 1 and 2, but Remedy developed Max Payne 1 and 2. And then even Quantum Break. I love Quantum Break, if you remember that game, which I'll talk about later. Nice. But Alan Wake 2, man, it's so damn good. Like you need to play it. Like this is, if you're going to play anything else this year, like if you just
Alan Wake
needed a recommendation of one game, it would be Alan Wake. Cause like the story is just so good. The narrative is so good. The combat, not that great. It's pretty kind of simple and generic, but like the narrative of it is so freaking good. And just the way it's structured is so fascinating. And just seeing how Saga's story and Alan's story come together and like how one story affects the other story and everything. It is a masterpiece, in my opinion, of narrative storytelling. Like this is just, this does something that you won't find in film or in books. Like this is something that the way the story is structured and the way it plays out is just inherently works because it's a video game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It would be very hard to pull off in like a film or book setting. Maybe in a book. I don't know. But I don't know, something about just the way it's structured in a video game makes it like a masterpiece, in my opinion, of narrative storytelling in video games. And where Baldur's Gate 3, like its storytelling is amazing. The amazingness comes from the fact there's so many different choices, but it's structurally simple. Like if that makes sense, like Baldur's Gate 3 storytelling is fairly straightforward, fairly simple. What makes it amazing is all the different choices that you can make along the way to influence the ending that you can get. So I think they're doing two very different things, but both are very strong in narrative storytelling. And yeah, so like for me, it's coming really close to like, which do I like more? It's also like recency bias because I've been playing more of Alan Wake than Baldur's Gate 3, which is technically not true because I started playing Baldur's Gate 3 again, which I'll talk about now. So I started playing Baldur's Gate 3 on my stream, created a lovely, beautiful, wonderful bard named Gleekus.
Nice.
And just doing my Baldur's Gate 3 stream with Gleekus and just having fun with it. Still in Act 1, still at the Druid Enclave and stuff like that. Nice. But having fun with it. It's been fun. I love Baldur's Gate 3. Another game that I've been playing, of course, is Marvel Snap. Still playing Marvel Snap. Kind of addicted to it. And then I started playing a little game this morning on my stream. Because Alan Wake 2 wouldn't launch on my PC for some reason. I couldn't get it to launch. Okay. It like had an update. I updated it and then just wouldn't launch. I got it working now, so it's no big deal. But for some reason, it wouldn't launch this morning. Anyways, but because I couldn't get launched, I was like, well, then I'll just pivot and play this game, Thirsty Suitors. Thirsty Suitors is a new game that came out on Friday, yesterday. On Game Pass. It's also available on everything. It might have come out on Thursday. I don't know. It was Friday for me when I saw it pop up on Game Pass. So, but this game is so it's oozing style. Like just visually, this game looks amazing. The visual elements of it just pops with color. The animation, like in cutscenes and in battles and stuff, is awesome. For those who we watched a trailer at I want to say it was like an Xbox event, but it might have been like a Jeff Keighley thing, like Summer Game Fest stuff or something. But I know we watched a trailer at some point when we were live reacting to something. or maybe it was just something that we talked about. I don't remember, but like, this game is, I think this game is okay. I've only played 2 hours of it. Right now it has an 80 on OpenCritic.
Okay.
And this isn't a review rundown of this. Just facts that when I looked up, when I was trying to form my thoughts about my 2 hours with it. It has an 80 on OpenCritic, and like most reviews are anywhere from 7 to 8, of course, with obviously it leaning more on the heavy 8 side than on the 7 side. I haven't seen anybody like just review it really bad or anything like that. But I kind of lean towards like the 80 feels right. Okay. When I want to, with where I'm at right now with it. Because Thirsty Suitors is just a combination of multiple different things. It's doing like there's like this persona aspect to it, like turn-based battles with what is called thirst sonas. Oh my god. And so you're trying to so there's like these thirstonas, and you're trying to build up relationships and stuff like all this other stuff. And there's turn-based combat based on your thirstona and like how strong you are and stuff. Anyways, the combat stuff I absolutely hate. Like as someone who loves Persona, it's really weird for me to say that I don't like the turn-based combat they have, but it comes down to one fact, and that is the battles don't feel smooth. They feel very slow. Okay. And it's slow because there are button prompts. There are random, they like when you do an attack, you have to press A or tab X or whatever. And like, it really slows down the turn-based combat, where Persona is like super smooth and like, it's fast and flashy. This is slow and flashy. like the animation that's happening while you're doing the button prompts looks awesome. Yeah. But it slows down the combat a lot for me, to the point that I was playing it and I was like, please just stop. I just want to complete this battle and move on. Like it felt intrusive in a lot of ways. And it wasn't because I wasn't getting the timing down. It was just like, okay, this happens every time I'm attacking. And this other dude has like 100 health, but I'm only doing like 15 health. Or I'm only doing like 15 damage per like hit. And so it's like, can we just please hurry this up? Like, it just felt like the battles were taking too long in like the 2 hours that I was playing. Yeah. And so like, that's what was really slowing it down for me. On top of that, the game, in the battles, characters will randomly start saying stuff. And I'm like, okay, please just shut up. Like, I don't need you to give me a monologue here. I just need to fight you. Okay. Like, let's just go. Like every time I got into a battle, it was like, well, I'm here to woo you. Let's fuck. And I'm like, dude, please shut up. I don't need you to say this. So it was like every other turn, it was like, dude, what do you think of me now? And it's like, stop, don't talk. So like the combat, I was just like, I don't like this. And you know, this kind of goes off the conversation we had last week, where the combat, the gameplay is kind of preventing me from advancing. Okay. But I am interested. Like, I am fascinated by the narrative. So the story is, you play this character named Jala. She's returning home after 3 and some odd months away from home. Her sister's getting married. She had a falling out with Jala had a falling out with her sister, and they haven't talked for months, and all of this other stuff. And this is a story about just someone coming back home to their hometown to kind of find closure. Because when Jala left, she left on a bad note with a lot of people. Like, she left. She like got in an argument with her mom before she left. She got in a fight with her sister. She feels bad that she let her dad down. She feels bad about breaking multiple people's hearts. Like, so this is a story of like this young woman returning home to find closure in a lot of ways. And there's something about that narrative that really resonates with me. Even in the 2 hours that I played, that I was playing, there was like some dialogue, dialogue things that were said that I was like, oof, this hits home for me. Like, just some of the things that were said from just like, I'm back home because I need to find closure. Like, I want to, you know, find the closure that I kind of didn't get when I just up and left.
Yeah.
And it was just like things like with the mom too, just being like, you really upset us when you left. And it's like, there's just some very poignant moments in the narrative that like has me interested. Like, I want to know Jala's story more. I want to know what happened with all her exes. So like the idea of Thirsty Suitors is like, there's a bunch of exes. It's almost like Scott Pilgrim, how Scott Pilgrim had all the different exes and stuff. That's sort of like that in a lot of ways. And each one of them have their own thing. The first one you meet is Sergio. And Sergio is fucking ridiculous. Like, just like that. You need to go watch these boss fights because it's just ridiculous. Like, it's a very Scott Pilgrim-esque sort of like boss fight where you're just like, what the hell is going on with this bullshit? Like, it's very, like, the writing is very humorous and stuff. It's just, man, I wish the gameplay was fun.
Gotcha.
Because I'm interested in the narrative. But like right now, that interest in the narrative is one that where it's like, well, I'll just go watch a YouTube video or I'll just go read a wiki or something. Yeah. Because like the gameplay is just not doing it for me. And they do something interesting with Thirsty Suitors that I appreciate, but it still doesn't help me with the combat itself. And that is like, you can auto enable, like auto complete the button prompts. Like, so like you don't have to press anything. It just happens.
Gotcha.
But it's still like you're still going through like a 10-15 second animation of like the button prompt happening, where like if you have to press X at a certain specific time, you still see the circle forming and then the X. And it's like, it would have been great if that like it was just instant and just kept moving. Like,
gotcha.
There's just like the combat stuff just slows it down. There's some skateboarding stuff that's like it feels very stiff to move around the world because you have to ride your skateboard around. It feels very stiff. And there's like several different mini games. This is like a lot of mini games in this game, and none of them particularly work for me. So I'm just like, it's just, the gameplay stuff is just is preventing me from wanting to really see this game through. But man, I'm so interested in the story because I think the little bit of writing that we got was really freaking good.
Nice.
The style of it, the visual style of it is amazing. And gosh darn, dude, the soundtrack is a bop, dude. Like, nice. The soundtrack is dope. Like, nice. I love the soundtrack. Like, this is just it's just really good music. Like, just go listen to the soundtrack on YouTube or something. I think they have the soundtrack on Spotify. I might be wrong about that, but like, it's really good. Like, nice. This is like music I would put on just to just chill with and like play in the background, like while I'm going and doing things. Like, it's so damn good. So nice. Like, it's so like, so that's why I say like 80 feels appropriate for me, like based on what I played. And I'm honestly probably not going to play any more than what I've played. I would give it a 3 out of 5 because just like it's, the narrative is interesting enough. And like, I know it's dumb to like rate a game that I haven't completed or anything like that, but it just feels like 80 from what I played feels right. So, with that said, Ell, I don't think this is a game for you. I don't think you would like this game at all.
Well, there you have it.
Because like I had debated about this. I was like, do I tell Ell that we, instead of doing like Lies of P, we do Thirsty Suitors? And then I was like, no, I think Ell would play like an hour of this and then text me and be like, dude, why are you making me play this game? Like, that's what I feel. Because it's also one thing I forgot to mention too is that it's a very queer centric game. Okay. It's very queer, unabashedly LGBT. Like, Jala like had multiple partners that were female, that were trans and stuff. So like it's unabashedly queer. Like, okay. And that I appreciate that a lot. So like, if you're not into that sort of storytelling too, that may be off-putting for some folks. So just keep that in mind too, that this is unabashedly LGBT queer. Like, yeah. So
gotcha. Okay.
So yeah. But it's narratively though, I'm fascinated by the narrative, but yeah, that's where I'm at with Thirsty Suitors. I'm probably not going to play much more. Does this sound like a game for you, Ell? Or
no, because it's kind of, I guess I'd have to look at a trailer to see exactly, because it kind of makes me think of some sort of like dance rhythm game where these prompts come up mixed with like other things.
There's a rhythm to it. There is a rhythm to it.
Okay.
Music is a big part of the game. So
interesting. Okay.
It's not quite like a true rhythm game, but it's pretty close.
Gotcha.
Pretty close.
I mean, it sounds okay. It sounds like a very chill play, if that makes sense. Like just a very relaxing, just take your time or whatever, nothing too serious. But more like more, I guess I'm more focused on the human side of it with like the relationship between people, which is interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it's on Game Pass, so you can check it out. There's no reason not to check it out if it piques your interest. But yeah, I don't think this is a L game. I don't, because like because you're not the biggest fan of like turn-based stuff, right? So
it depends, because I mean I've played certain turn-based games. Like I mean, for example, like I really love Slay the Spire, Sea of Stars. It's kind of basically the battles turn-based.
These are more like Persona-esque battles.
Yeah, so. I haven't played Persona, so I'm kind of unfamiliar with it. I guess I would just have to watch like a gameplay trailer of it just to check it out. So
yeah, the trailers are dope as hell too. The trailers look amazing. So
okay,
but it's also an indie game. It's an indie developer and stuff. So but yeah,
nice.
With all of that said, I'm sorry for my long review of Thirsty Suitors. With that said, we do have a couple of things to talk about. So BlizzCon happened. Happened, or it's happening now, I believe. And so there was a bunch of announcements today. From yesterday. So we're gonna run through all of those announcements. Ell, I'm gonna pass some stuff off to you as well, because you can talk more about it than I can. And then we're gonna talk about some Easter eggs from Daredevil getting put back into Spider-Man 2, and it had people speculating there might be a Daredevil game. Why not? Because they have Wolverine, they have Spider-Man. But we'll talk more about that. And then our big topic for today is going to be favorite game developers, not publishers, the developers themselves, because I feel like this is not something a lot of folks really talk too much about. And so I'm interested in hearing your approach to game developers, like your history with focusing on developers. So nice. Yeah, I'm interested in that. So let's quickly go through some of the big BlizzCon announcements. So BlizzCon, this is a write-up from IGN that has compiled pretty much all the announcements for us. So starting off, Diablo 4's first expansion will be called Vessel of Hatred. I'm a big fan of Diablo 4, as I've mentioned a lot. Ell, you know this. I was playing it nonstop when Diablo 4 came out.
Yep.
I love Diablo, and so this has me excited. Every Diablo game has had an expansion except for Diablo 1, but every Diablo game's had an expansion, so I'm excited. I believe back before Diablo 4 released, they said there's going to at least be 2 expansions.
Nice.
Yeah, but there's a trailer for the Vessels of Hatred and stuff. It looked great. So yeah, I'm excited about this. Is this something you're interested in at all?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I know how much you were playing it. I know, and I actually never got around to it just because I think as I was going to give it a chance, that first real update happened where everybody was kind of like, what the hell is going on? And I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't jump in right now. And so I never gave it a shot, and then kind of got lost in the weeds of things. And so it is cool though.
Would it make? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it is cool that it's getting an expansion, because it's always cool to hear that, because I mean you hear that with like World of Warcraft and a couple other extra like DLC type content for video games and stuff. But yeah. Would
it get you excited in the back end to tell you that season 2 that's going on right now is really good? Is that like the updates they made? Like there's still like people complaining about like the microtransactions and stuff like that, and
of course
then having to like start over, re-roll characters and stuff. That's gonna always probably happen because Michael microtransactions people always want to talk about. And then the general, I have to make a new character each season, but why I gotta do that? I don't know why I'm making fun of people, because it is annoying, but it's also like something Diablo 3 was doing to begin with, and Path of Exile and stuff does as well. So but season 2 though is great. It's vampire centric.
Nice.
And it's going until, I think this season 2 is supposed to last until 2024. I might be wrong about that.
Okay.
It might be I think it's going until the end of 2024, and then the next season starts. I might be wrong. It might be until December, and then but that feels right, because like the first season 1 went from July to beginning of October. Oh wow. So that feels about right. So I think that that would make sense that it would last until the end of the year. So, anyways, not important. But yeah, so still plenty of time to check Diablo out. I'm sure Diablo 4 is going to go on sale like during Black Friday or like holiday sales or something. So, see if you can't snatch it up for cheap then.
Nice.
Next up, speaking of World of Warcraft, Blizzard announces the next three expansions in the World of Warcraft, and it's called the World Soul Saga. So this is straight from the article. Blizzard has announced the Wonder Soul, not World Soul. Wonder Soul?
I see.
Okay, they're giving it two different answers here. So someone in this IGN article messed up.
Yeah.
So I think it's the Wonder Soul Saga. Someone in this, Anyways, a larger narrative that will contain the next three expansions for World of Warcraft. The first three expansions will be called The War Within. The first of these expansions will be called The War Within and will be released in 2024. The War Within will take place in the subterranean kingdoms of Azeroth, where Nerubians and an allied race called the Earthen Dwarves await. The big expansion will also contain a ton, including a promised return of former talking knife Zal Atath, and new zones like Aj-Kahit, Isle of Dorn, the Ringing Deeps, and Hallowfall, a new treasure hunting adventure activity called Delves, a community feature called Warbands, and a new Dungeons and Raids. So yeah, sounds good. I'm sure World of Warcraft constantly gets expansions,
of course.
So it's like every 2 years, I believe that's the cadence they've had. Okay. Is like a new expansion every 2 years or so. So I think this works out because the last expansion came out, Dragonflight came out last year. So yeah, 2022 and then 2024 getting a new expansion. I think what's cool here is that they have a narrative story that's going to span these three games. So that's going to be exciting, I think. But yeah, is this going to make you want to play World of Warcraft at all?
Not really. I'm not really big into World of Warcraft. I did play it when I was younger, but not so much now.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was...
all the time that I was playing World of Warcraft in our dorms, and you never told me that you used to play World of Warcraft?
I did. It's just because it couldn't retain me. I didn't really find too much in it because it was a lot of like going on, quests and stuff, and I just couldn't keep up with it. And so, but I only played it for like a very, very short, brief time, just trying to see if I'd be into it. And then I was just like, no, not really into it. But
yeah. Do you remember why I started playing World of Warcraft in college?
No, I don't remember.
My freshman year, I dated this girl. You probably don't remember this because I was dating this girl. I don't want to say her name. Yeah, but she was like obsessed with World of Warcraft, and so I only started playing because of her. Like before that, I had played briefly, but like it was really my freshman year in college. I only dated this girl for like a month.
Oh my gosh! And then after that, you were stuck with it.
Yeah. No, after that I stopped playing.
Oh, okay.
And then after that I stopped playing, and then I started playing again like in not too long. Like a year or two later I started playing again because like an expansion pack came out or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then ever since then I've been on and off. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to. You probably don't remember her because like I kept that part of my life away from you and the other guys, the group that we would hung out with. So I was always weird about. Anyways, we don't need to get into it. That's a relax and respawn
conversation.
Topic.
Yeah.
Anyways, another and more World of Warcraft news. World of War Classic is adding the Cataclysm expansion, which is the expansion that a lot of people don't like. I want to say like this Cataclysm kind of like broke up, like was like the first big shift in World of Warcraft, where it was like we're gonna change fundamentally everything. We're gonna change the layout of the world. We're gonna get rid of all of the old quests, and we're gonna plant some new ones in, and like just change the dynamic of the world up. And like it just really switched everything. And some people hated it, some people loved it. But World of Warcraft Classic, if you want to play that, you can have a chance to experience Cataclysm like it once was. Are you familiar with World of Warcraft Classic? Like, do you understand the difference between World of Warcraft Classic versus World of Warcraft now?
I don't understand the difference, but I think I've heard of just like the differences between them, but I'm not too familiar with it.
Classic just is like right now they have Classic for the base version of World of Warcraft, like its original state when it first came out, with like updates to, you know, make it stable and stuff like that. But like it's, for the most part, its original state when it released.
Gotcha.
Then they have Wrath of the Lich King expansion, Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King might be the same launch rate. I have to look, but yeah, they have another classic version, and I guess they're going to have a third classic version for Cataclysm. So
gotcha.
And it's just the original states the game was in when those expansions came out, when the base game came out, so people can go back and experience it without all the extra fluff that has come out since and stuff. Because like people have fond memories of, you know, of the World of Warcraft launch and Burning Crusade days and all that stuff. So people wanted to re-experience that, and it was just an opportunity to re-experience it. That's like what the difference is. So there's like what's called the retail, which is the one that gets all the current expansions, and then the classic, the different ways you could play it. Because like back in 2018, 2019, sorry, I burped. It's all the Coke. There was like a lot of like World of Warcraft servers, like private servers that were using like the base version of World of Warcraft so people could play. And then like people were starting to make money off of it, and Blizzard was like, "Oh, there's money to be made here. Let's do it." That's basically what happened. Like people were like, "Oh, we can make money off of this." So yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna skip over the Overwatch stuff to let you handle that.
Okay.
There's some Hearthstone news. The Hearthstone's next major expansion is Showdown in the Badlands. Hearthstone Shadow in the Badlands is the cards game's next expansion, and it takes place in Azeroth's Wild West. The new expansion was a Western spin and will also serve as an origin story for Hearthstone's Reno Jackson and Elsie Starseeker. These two must work together to save the Badlands from a nefarious mining operation. It's releasing on November 14th, so just in a couple weeks, and it will feature the game's neutral hero card. Are you interested in Hearthstone at all?
I did think about playing it at one point, because I know that I think I had this conversation with you. This is at the time when I was really playing Marvel Snap, because it's in a sense similar to that, is it not?
Yeah.
And
Hearthstone's a little bit more complicated than Marvel Snap. It's also been around longer, and you know, there's like a meta to it. You'd really have to talk to like Blitz. Blitz is obsessed with Hearthstone, our friend Blitz. Like I see him playing it all the time. Like, you know, when I log into the BattleNet stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, he's playing Hearthstone.
That's so funny.
But yeah, he's like obsessed with it.
Yeah, and then also it's interesting. Like, it kind of reminded me of it, because I've seen other people online play it, and it looks interesting. Also, they have Overwatch characters in there as well, and that's very interesting. And so, like, I've been interested in playing it, because is it not also free to play?
Yeah, it's free to play, and then But like you're like my thing with like Hearthstone, because it's Hearthstone matches. Hearthstone was a response to, I guess, Hearthstone. Like the idea of Hearthstone was to make it like a simple Magic the Gathering. Yeah. But then it got too complicated with like all the meta and stuff, and like all these new cards coming in and stuff, and so like. It got like, for me, it's too complicated, too intimidating to try to get into now. And that's why I got into Marvel Snap, because I was able to play Marvel Snap from the beginning. Because like back when Hearthstone launched, I had no interest at all. Marvel Snap, it feels like it's going that way after I started, you know, took that long break from February to now. I'm like, oof, I missed a lot of the meta cards. Like, it's going to cost a lot of money if I want to invest in this. That's what Hearthstone is like, you got to invest in it if you really want to make if you like want to be competitive and you want to get those wins and stuff. If you're just there to chill, not worry about it, that's probably fine. But like, if you want to be competitive, if you want to get the best cards, you're going to have to like make a major investment to catch up, because like you've missed so many expansions. And that's why I'm like, I will probably never play Hearthstone, because it just feels too intimidating, too daunting to try to learn the meta, get the right cards for the meta and stuff like that.
Okay. Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense, because I definitely understand that Marvel Snap comparison. Because if you don't consistently play and you miss out on certain cards, you're going to be like, who is this? What's this card? What's this character do?
Yeah, what's this doing? Like, Like I'm scared for Marvel Snap because Marvel Snap already feels like it's going that way, and Marvel Snap's only been out for a year now, where it's already like, oof, some of these, I can't imagine being a new player to getting into Marvel Snap now and just being like, oof, some of these cards, man, it's going to take a while for you to get them. Do you really want to do that?
Exactly.
And that's how I feel about Hearthstone, where it's like, oof, Hearthstone's been out for too many years, too many cards, too many expansions. And yeah, I think the cool thing with Hearthstone is that the expansions are spread out, whereas Marvel Snap just keeps adding cards feels like every other week, pretty much.
Interesting.
So, they just added Werewolf by Night, which actually works really well in my deck.
Nice.
Anyways. Just unlocked him today. He's been great. Anyways, moving on with some more announcements. Diablo Tabletop RPG announced. Cool. The core book will launch in fall 2024, and the Diablo TT RPG will launch via a pre-order campaign on Kickstarter. I have one issue with this, and that's Blizzard going through a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I think that's I get it. Like they're teaming up with other people and stuff. So I get it and stuff. Maybe they're just taking the Diablo name and putting it on something. And Blizzard really has no involvement other than that. But it's still kind of like, really? You're going through Kickstarter for this? Blizzard? Because multi-million, billion-dollar company, Blizzard.
Exactly.
But whatever. Who am I to critique? Because again, maybe it's, because they're going with Glass Cannon Unplugged and Genuine Entertainment. So maybe it's them wanting to do the Kickstarter rather than Blizzard itself. But gotcha. Yeah. It still feels kind of like icky to me.
Yeah, I could say that. That makes sense.
But yeah, I know you aren't you don't play tabletop RPGs at all, right? So
yeah, no, not really.
As someone who loves tabletop RPGs, I play D&D, I play Shadowrun. If you know what Shadowrun is, I love Pathfinder, I love Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077, but the tabletop version of it. Okay. I have no interest in doing a TT RPG in the Diablo world. And that's solely because the Diablo world is so fucking depressing. Like, it's you can argue that as Dungeons and Dragons and Cyberpunk and all of that has depressing worlds too, but there's something inherently depressing about the Diablo world because everybody's just has shitty lives that's constantly being destroyed by these demons and stuff. Again, I guess you could argue the same thing about Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, but I don't know. Like, I have no interest in getting more involved in the Diablo world than I already do. Like, I don't really RP when I play Diablo. I'm playing Diablo because it's just easy to turn my brain off and just kill a bunch of demons, level up, and all of that stuff. Like, there's not anything really that makes me want to RP in it. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, I love to RP in that. I love to RP in Cyberpunk. I love to RP in Shadowrun. I just like those worlds more, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to explain this very well, but yeah, a Diablo TTRPG does nothing for me. So
makes sense.
But yeah, I'm sure it's going to reach its goals in Kickstarter. I would laugh if it didn't, but then I would also feel bad. No. They go on to say in their little announcement too, they said Diablo 4 is the main inspiration for the TTRPG, and it will further explore the overworld and underworld of Sanctuary, embarking on adventures above and below with fan favorite mechanics torn straight from the screen. What fucking mechanics are you talking about? Anyways, I'm interested in knowing what mechanics they're talking about. They're talking about socketing gems. Is that hilarious. A fan favorite thing in Diablo? Socketing gems? Anyways, I don't know what game mechanics they're talking about with torn straight from the screen. Anyways, Diablo Tabletop RPG was announced. Phil Spencer made a surprise appearance at BlizzCon. That's cool. Nice. He said throughout Blizzard's history, they've pioneered and refined so much across the gaming industry, and many of you today have been part of that journey. Think of Diablo. It propelled the action RPG genre forward. StarCraft spawned the foundation for what esports would eventually become, and StarCraft 2 was a major catalyst for the evolution of games as live entertainment. World of Warcraft changed not only how people developed and supported games, but really it introduced a much wider audience to the concept of online communities. And Overwatch not only reimagined gameplay, but also the representation possible in class-based shooters. So just, nice little opening statements, like opening speech from Phil Spencer. We're going to see more of that as time goes on. We're going to see Activision Blizzard.
Yep.
Microsoft owned now. So we're going to see a lot more Phil Spencer commenting on these things. I'm interested to see what Microsoft is going to do for things like BlizzCon in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't imagine them stopping it because BlizzCon is such a big thing for people who love the Blizzard products. Like this is a couple of days of people who love Blizzard games, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo and stuff, Overwatch. They come together and you see all the cosplay, you get all these big announcements. So I can't imagine Microsoft doing away with that, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they halted and was like, you know what, this is too much money. We need to slow down. We just paid $69 billion for you. We're going to stop this, at least for now. I don't think that's actually going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft was like, let's not do this anymore. Because they still allow the Quake stuff, right? They still allow Quake. What is it called? QuakeCon?
QuakeCon? Is it QuakeCon?
QuakeCon is QuakeCon. Yeah, I believe it's QuakeCon. Yeah. QuakeCon is the one that it was ID ZeniMax held and stuff. They still have that going, so they still allow that to happen. And that's something that's owned by Microsoft because it's ZeniMax and Bethesda and all that. So
gotcha.
They do their announcements and stuff. So yeah. They had one this past year. So
interesting. Wow.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And it took place in Texas. So there you go.
Whoa.
So I'm since they still allow QuakeCon to go on, I'm sure they'll still allow BlizzCon to go on, since they're both pretty big draws for folks.
So cool. Nice.
And then finally, some other stuff that I have no real interest in, but I'll mention it. Warcraft Rumble gets a launch cinematic and launch gameplay trailer. Cool. It's going to be out on iPhone and Android and all that stuff. Are you interested in Warcraft Rumble? It looks like generic Clash of whatever the fuck it's called.
Clash of Clans?
Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like.
I'm okay.
To me. Yeah. I'm watching the trailer now. It doesn't look great. I have no interest in playing this at all.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really.
It looks like a MOBA. Yeah. It looks like a very childish. Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. Doesn't look great, in my opinion. But
yeah, I could say
I'm not the target audience for it at all in any way, shape, or form. So, anyways, those are all the announcements for me. Ell, I'm going to pass this off to you so you can talk about the Overwatch stuff.
Oh yeah,
I don't give a shit about Overwatch.
It's so funny. So before we get into this, I had remembered that BlizzCon was going on, but I did not realize that there was an announcement of there's a new hero that was shown off, that was announced, and I did not know that until I was randomly in a match, and then people in the match chat were just like, "Has anybody played the new hero?" And I'm like, "New hero?" I'm like, "Who is that?" And then of course, if you look off into the tank portion of playable characters, there was a new guy that was just added. To kind of get into this, Overwatch 2 has announced the next tank hero known as Mauga, the game's first Samoan hero. And so there was a trailer shown off. There's an article here on IGN that has a trailer that they showed off at BlizzCon, which is pretty cool. I'll say that I really love the look of Mauga. I think he looks really cool. And it's a very interesting character because we didn't talk about this before, but we talked about this before the podcast, that we didn't announce that they had also announced a new support hero named Illari, and she is also really cool, and I've had a blast playing with her. But Mauga, I think they've announced they've introduced 4 new heroes since Overwatch 2 launch, which one was Sojourn. She was the first DPS. Then you had Junker Queen, who was one of the new tanks. Then you had Illari, a new support, and Mauga is the 4th one, being a new tank. But he feels like one of the first. He kind of feels like the right way to go with a tank in Overwatch 2, as far as he feels like a different type of tank, if that makes sense. Just to kind of go here, revealed during BlizzCon 2023. This is an article from IGN by Wesley Yinpool and Logan Plant. Blizzard shared an overview trailer of the character showing off Mauga's weapons and abilities. As a heavy assault character, Mauga wields a number of heavy artillery weapons like the incendiary chain gun and the volatile chain gun, which he lovingly named Gunny and Cha-Cha.
Cha-Cha. I love it. I love the names.
Oh, yeah.
Names are great.
It's very cool. And so Mauga has some of his abilities. He has an unstoppable charge move called Overrun, which seems him rushing through the battlefield. Blizzard also shared that, of course, that he's the first Samoan hero. I think in the lore of Overwatch, he's from the same place that BAP is from, near the same island, because they have history with each other. It's very.
I thought you were about to say where The Rock is from, and I was like, damn, they brought The Rock.
This is The Rock voice accent. No, but he's from the kind of like the same place. They have history with each other, and so it's he's very fun. I actually got a chance to play with him because for this weekend, as of this recording, when this comes out, it'll be over. But when it was announced, they gave him a free trial for people to be able to play with him in unranked. And so you can play around. I got to play with him for a little bit. Man, and I'll say this, that he is fun to play with, but I can tell that it will require some time for people to get used to his play style, because the way that he just plays as this very mobile tank with these machine guns. So like I would say he plays kind of similarly like a Junker Queen. If you've ever played with Junker Queen, where she doesn't have a shield, she has no hammer or anything like that to swing, so she's just constantly shooting. He plays the same, but it's like he kind of feels like a tank / DPS, because you have to like aim with his guns and you have to like shoot. You can run in there and charge. His ultimate is pretty fun, where his ultimate, what he does is he can run in somewhere and like do his overrun. And his ultimate, what it is he creates this barrier that traps the people within this area, and they're chained to it and they can't leave. And he has unlimited ammo to just kind of like fire and kill his opponents. It's very like, if you see it in the trailer, you're just like, what is happening? They call it, I think, cage fight or something like that. And so he's very fun. He's like super cool. I think what I'm interested in is seeing high players see how they use him, because we'll probably learn a lot for how they play versus like lower ranks. And so it's interesting. He looks really cool. I love his character design, and I'm excited for him to come into it. But I know that it was revealed here, though, even though he's free to play this week, which people are playing right now, he won't be officially added to the roster until season 8, which will be on December 5th. So we still have another month to go before he actually gets added. This is more just like I'm pretty sure they were just doing this to kind of like, it's BlizzCon, let's show off some stuff or whatever. And so, but given all that, I think he's a blast to play. I'm going to see, I might play him a little bit more before the weekend's over and just kind of see what kind of, I guess, comp you would get with like your team to play to make him the most effective, because he does play different. So so it's
cool,
so interesting. And then also there was another thing that was announced here also from the article. A new hero named a new damage hero named Adventure will join Overwatch 2 in season 10. This is the one that I actually missed. And so and a new support hero currently codenamed Space Ranger is coming in season 12. So they just kind of showed off the roadmap as to like more characters that are coming. But as new heroes continually get introduced after a while, I get a little worried, because I kind of feel like the game might end up losing what it's, I guess, or maybe I'm stuck in the past, but like I kind of feel like there's always this talk in Overwatch 2 of like finding balance within the game, as far as like, the tanks not being overpowered, the damage DPS not being overpowered, the support not being overpowered or semi underpowered. I feel like as you constantly introduce new things, like it's cool, but after a while I'm just like, are we just gonna, is this a thing that's always gonna be constant? The constant talk of like, balance, finding the balance. These people are overpowered. Support's overpowered, because that was a big thing that I've noticed recently, where people were saying that support was overpowered, and then they got nerfed, and now they're like, now it's back to how it is. But then I guess maybe it's constantly people complaining of like, now we need to be buffed, Yeah,
I think like there's no avoiding that. There's always going to be people like, well, I don't feel powerful enough. Yeah, I don't. So like. Yeah, there's always going to be people that are going to complain. They're going to always be like, we're too powerful, or we're not powerful enough. And it's always going to be a game of balancing. Yeah. And then inherently, when you introduce new characters, like the whole conversation is going to restart. And like, if they release a new character every season, like you're going to get that every season where either character is going to be overpowered or they're not going to be powerful enough, or people are just going to complain for the sake of complaining. Like it's inescapable. I think the real question, and like for me, like, does this excite you? Does the future excite you? Do you feel like Overwatch is going to is Overwatch going to? I feel like Overwatch is always chasing like that initial high. That happened. And one, that's impossible to happen because like Overwatch was like 2016, Overwatch 1 when it released, right? 2016. It was such a lightning in the bottle moment where it's like, oh shit, this is dope.
Exactly.
And it's never going to capture that moment again. And I feel like there's players that are like, well, we just go back to that. It's like different times. And like, and even if they did go back to that, something like that, people would complain anyways and be like, well, what about the character's new characters? Like, there's going to be no winning it. So like, you can't capture that moment. So like, do you feel like do you feel like this is a good time to jump into Overwatch now? Or do you think like, do you feel like you're going to reach a barrier sort of like what we just talked about with Marvel Snap and Hearthstone, where it feels like it's too overbearing, like for a new player to get into, where they look at it and go, there's 28 characters. What the hell do I do? Yeah. How do who do I do? Like the learning curve is so like, or do you fear that learning curve is going to get too high that like the player base is going to stagnate even more than it already is? Because like, I don't know what the player base is like now, but like I know back before back over the summer in July when the PvE drama happened, there was like a mass exodus. And like, if you go look at Steam reviews, I mean, we shouldn't look at Steam reviews because they're awful, but like, it's just people like, fuck this game. It's like, do you have hope or fear or anything for Overwatch? Yeah. So I think what it is like, a part of me does have a little fear that that learning curve will get steeper. I think that's what it is, because I think it's great if you're playing Overwatch, you're kind of used to, whether if you just play one role or if you play multiple roles or if you have certain characters that you main, I think you'll be good. To a new player, I think what'll be maybe because maybe I'm thinking too, like, I guess, negative about it. But a part of me, a new player, I think what will happen, what I get worried about for new people coming into it is that steep learning curve. And then also what I would say is that new players, if they do come into Overwatch, don't even jump into competitive at all. I would say, just because I think that's a big turnoff for people, especially if if you're not really wanting to get competitive or whatever. I would say stick to unranked or just kind of like certain game modes, because I think because I can see it happen occasionally when a player who is not that well, and it even happens sometimes in unranked, where you kind of come across someone, you're like, oh, this person is like amazing and they're like tiers above me, just like their skill set. And that can be a very big turnoff when you play against someone who is just like, and what's crazy is that the difference doesn't have to be something as crazy as like somebody who's in bronze plays a masters, because that probably will never happen, but it probably does happen randomly occasionally. But even going from like, if you play someone who's bronze into somebody who's in high gold or something like that, like even that, the difference in that can be off-putting sometimes. Because I think I was playing yesterday and like, I think currently I'm in low plat, but I played maybe like 2 or 3 levels up, and I was like, this person that I'm playing against doesn't feel like they're in this same level. It feels like they should be higher. And just seeing like the difference in skill set, I'm just like, this could be like a turnoff. Like this could almost make me be like, maybe I should stop. But I think it depends, Yeah. I think my last question for you, are the new characters that are getting introduced, like each season, like when they get introduced, are they locked only to that season? Like, can a new player unlock them, or do you have to like pay for them and stuff? That's the other thing. I'm glad you asked that, where new people who come into the game do not have those characters unlocked, from what I remember. And so
what sucks is I've seen this happen before on certain YouTube videos or channels where I've seen it where tank players will come in and they won't have any of the new characters that came with Overwatch 2 unlocked because you have to go through the battle pass system, or unless you pay for them for like a pack of expansion pack or whatever. And so sometimes what will happen is they'll be stuck with, the original cast of tank players. In certain videos, I saw someone, they were like, why aren't you playing such and such? And they're like, oh, well, I don't have them unlocked. Like, and it's just like, and so that's the only thing. It'd be different if they would just come already unlocked. I think that would be the better choice for Blizzard and new people that come into it, because it's just Blizzard trying to make money. So
I mean, it always comes down to money. So
that's the only thing, because I get worried with that type of system as time goes on and more characters get introduced. There's going to come a point to where someone randomly decides, you know what, I want to get into Overwatch 2. They're going to come to the decision of like, do I want to grind this game to unlock these characters, or do I want to pay this extra however much it costs to get these new characters that I don't even know if I'm really even going to stick with this game? And, that's the only fear that I have, because I'm thinking super down the road of like when they introduce 10 more characters, let's say, and then someone comes in and there's like 10 characters that they can't play with, it's just like,
those 10 characters are important to like the meta or whatever.
Exactly. It's the same thing with Snap. And it's just like,
and that's the thing. Like that's honestly like, the stuff with the PvE that happened back in June, July was like the big turnoff for me with Overwatch. And that made me go, I'm never going to play Overwatch again. And just like seeing the characters and seeing like a lack of anything for me as a player to make me want to go play. And like, I know I'm a unique situation, whereas like I've played Overwatch, so I can't really speak for like someone completely new coming in, but like there's nothing like these character designs are cool. Like the new character, what was his name? Mauga.
Mauga.
Like he looks cool. Like,
he looks really cool.
He looks cool, and like I like this one thing like I've always loved about Overwatch is like everyone looks awesome. Like, I don't think like I'm a little bit disappointed that they've gone away with like the big cinematic trailers that they used to have, like back in Overwatch 1. Because like it felt like they were like every character had their own cinematic trailer, and now they're just using gameplay footage, and I guess that's a better way to like show off the characters, anyways. But like I do miss the cinematic trailers, anyways. The designs look cool and stuff, but like they're not. Blizzard right now for me is not saying, hey, you need to come back to Blizzard, or you need to come back to Blizzard, you need to come back to Overwatch, you need to come back and play. It's cool that you're introducing a new character, but like, why should I care? What as a player that has fallen off, what can you do to make me want to come back? And right now, like even with this announcement, even with we're going to release this character in the next 2 seasons, none of that makes me want to come back. Yeah. Like, but the problem is I don't know what they could do to make me want to come back. Yeah. Is the big thing there. And like, I came back to Overwatch 2 because I was like, ooh, Overwatch 2, shiny new. It's supposed to be new. And it's like, I've said this before. I started playing Overwatch 2 and I was like, oh yeah, this is just Overwatch. This just feels the same. This is like, I know like things were different a little bit, but I was like playing Overwatch 2 and not really playing Overwatch 1 since like 2018. I was like, yeah, this felt like what I played back then. Like, so even gameplay wise, Overwatch 2 hasn't really done anything. And the reason I stuck with Overwatch 2 for so long was because I was playing with you. I was playing with Little Dove and Blitz, our friends. And like, but now it's like, I know you still play, Blitz and Little Dove still play, but like, just even playing with you guys doesn't make me want to come back. Like, I'm just like, unless you hit me up and was like, dude, you need to check this out. Yeah. That's the only way I would come back. And like the little hype that you had for like, I guess it wasn't even like hype. Just like, you were just like, the story stuff they introduced was okay. Yeah, it wasn't that's when like crazy. The general consensus was like, it's okay if you're interested in playing it, but it doesn't really do anything. Yeah. So that was the only thing I was interested in. And yeah, there's nothing Overwatch could do at this point. I think that could bring me back unless they were like, you know what? We are going to bring back PvE. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, exactly.
But it's going to be Overwatch 3. Sorry. Everybody's going to be like, what? Flip the tables.
Exactly. I'll say this, I think the two things that they should fix maybe one, but for one, they just have to, I think they have to continuously try to improve their competitive battle system as far as like when it comes to matchmaking, because that matchmaking definitely still needs work.
Still shite.
Yeah, I think it's slowly getting better, but I think it still has a little bit of a ways to go to actually be like, oh, you know, this actually feels good. Because there are times where sometimes I'll say it has improved a little bit where the matchmaking feels like, oh, I can definitely see we're on the same skill set. We're close to each other. Mm-hmm. But then every now and then, occasionally, sometimes more often than not, you'll get matches where I'm like, either it seems like they're way ahead of you as far as skill set, or they're way below you. And it's just like, this doesn't feel right, you know? And so I still think it needs a little bit of more tweaking. And then I was going to say that lastly, I do feel like unless new people coming into Overwatch 2 who haven't unlocked these characters, what's good about it is what I've always done each season, but this is because I've dedicated time to it, to completing the season pass. Every time you complete it, I think this is right. You can get enough Overwatch coins or whatever to be able to buy the season pass for next season. So where you can get the character. But then, like, going back to what we talked about, my worry is that for those who come into it, if they don't feel like grinding that season pass, then, you know, they're never going to unlock those characters. They're not going to have a good time, and they're not going to enjoy it enough unless they like, you know, playing Overwatch. Because I'm doing this just to get through the season pass, so that way next season, whenever December, I can be like, oh, I have enough Overwatch coins from doing the season pass to be able to get, you know, Mauga and work my way through that for the next season and then the season after, if I can choose to continue to play. So that whole, it just sucks. It's capitalism, people just trying to make money, and like it's you know, it's like, man, I wish it could be better, because it makes me think of Overwatch 1, where like everything was unlocked and people were just like, this is a new hero we're introducing, and that felt a lot more fun, that everyone had access to it versus only people who are willing to pay for it, you know? And so that's the only gripe I have. If they work on those two things, I think that it could be a whole lot better, in my opinion.
Well, so I can guarantee you they're not going to change their hero season stuff. Like, that's going to stay. Like, the only time that'll probably change is if they announce a Overwatch 3 or whatever is next. Overwatch Extreme.
Overwatch Rumble.
Overwatch Extreme Edition. Everyone's naked. What?
Oh, God.
Blizzard, what are you... Blizzard's giving it to the fans at that point.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly. They're
you've been asking for this. And then someone's going to be like, who asked for this? Hey, so you want to see... Listen, I'll take a naked Reinhardt any day of the week. Anyways,
oh, my gosh. Hilarious.
But moving on from Overwatch and everything. Well, one last thing. Is there are you outside of Overwatch, was anything at BlizzCon that like announced, was anything interest you? Do you want to play any of these games besides Overwatch?
No, not really. Not that I could think of. But I mean, that's just because, you know, I enjoy playing Overwatch. And so the rest of it, I do want to, I am thinking about getting into Hearthstone. But like you said, it comes back to the whole, like, I'm scared of getting in there and just not being equipped enough to be able to enjoy playing the game, you know, with like the meta or whatever. That's my only worry. But other than that, not really.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely talk to Blitz and see what he would have to say. But
gotcha.
Blitz is so deep into it, he might be biased.
He might be like, I'm sorry, you're not going to enjoy this.
I'm sorry, but you're a bitch. You should have been here from day one like I was.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Anyways, moving on to some Spider-Man news. So in Spider-Man 2, this is an article from IGN by Katie Reel. Spider-Man 2 patch brings back Nelson and Murdoch's sign. So last month, day one, players may recall the first game featured a plaque for the law office of Nelson and Murdoch near Josie's Bar, a landmark in Hell's Kitchen that commonly appears in the Daredevil comics. But after booting up Spider-Man 2, gamers were quick to discover the plaque with no text was left in its place, which inferred meant Nelson and Murdoch moved out. I just find that funny that IGN just created a story around it. Like, yeah, they moved out.
They moved out. They said, sorry, can't pay rent.
But it turns out that that wasn't the case. And in an update, they put it back in, and with the game lead game designer Brian Intihar saying, "Hey, I guess they paid their rent," because the sign is back there and it says Nelson and Murdoch. This went on to have like crazy speculation for a lot of people, and I wanted to talk about this, and this is the reason why I put it here, is that like people are getting excited with the idea that Insomniac Games, not only are they going to have a Wolverine game, but they might also have like either DLC for Spider-Man 2 that features Daredevil, or even a Daredevil game. And so, Elle, I wanted to ask you, does the idea of a Daredevil game interest you? Especially if it's made by Insomniac, who we know Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Miles Morales. Awesome games.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I guess the only question that comes to mind is because Daredevil's cool. I like Daredevil as a character. He's very interesting. I guess when it comes to stuff like this, I think it makes a lot more sense for DLC for Daredevil, not necessarily a Daredevil game, because I kind of feel like Daredevil isn't on the same level as Spider-Man as far as like popularity. It kind of feels like unless you are familiar with the comics or are familiar with Marvel or are familiar with the show, even that's kind of a stretch, but I don't know if Daredevil is big enough to have his own game. Maybe DLC, I could see that, but I guess it depends.
You mean to tell me after the successful Netflix series Daredevil, you telling me that nobody loves Daredevil? Because man, Daredevil, the Netflix show, fucking awesome.
It's great. It's great.
It's amazing.
My thing is
no longer on Netflix either. You got to watch it on Disney Plus now. Exactly. It's not on Netflix anymore. It's on Disney Plus. So anyways.
Yeah, no, I think my question just becomes: does the people who watch the series, are they interested in playing a game, so to speak, or were they just watching it for the show because it's a good show?
Yeah.
That's my only thing. I think it makes a lot more sense. I think it'd be cool to play like a game, like a Daredevil game, because then it'd be cool to introduce like the mechanics of seeing how that would work with like Daredevil. I mean,
sonar thing.
He's not web swinging across New York.
Yeah, he's not web swinging, but I mean, it would be cool for like the parkour aspects, because he does a lot of parkour, flips and. He does parkour. He does flips. That's my definition of parkouring right there.
Yeah.
No, it would be cool to it'll be interesting to see even in DLC to see how they would make how he would navigate compared to Spider-Man. Because you're not swinging or anything. You don't got the flip. It's completely different. And even then, if you look over at Wolverine, Insomniac is developing a Wolverine game. I imagine it's going to be drastically different from Spider-Man, obviously.
Yeah.
I expect Wolverine to be a little bit more brutal.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't, because Spider-Man and Wolverine are taking place in the same universe.
Yeah.
And all that. So they might stick to the style that Spider-Man established, where it's not super violent, super hyper violent, but maybe with Wolverine, they lean more into the violence, and that gives doing Daredevil DLC to Spider-Man 2, maybe that gives them the opportunity to lean more into that violent side of Spider-Man to make it maybe in between the release of Wolverine and Spider-Man 2. They have Daredevil DLC to go see, we are leaning into the violence here. This is getting closer to the violence. That way, when Wolverine comes out and it is violent, they go, see, we hinted at it with Daredevil. Daredevil got pretty violent compared to Spider-Man 2.
Exactly.
So I could see them doing that. DLC sounds about more right though. Especially with the way things are. It'll be interesting to see is Insomniac Games going to just take over all of the Marvel universe for video games, and just every game is just every Marvel game from here on out is just made by Insomniac?
Exactly. It'd be cool, because
interesting to see.
Yeah, they're pretty good at Spider-Man. So, we're going to see how the Wolverine video game comes out. I'd be interested as well, because they did make a game way back, if you remember this. But I really liked the Punisher video game. If you remember, it was on PlayStation 2.
Did Insomniac make that?
No, I don't think Insomnia made it. But I think I was talking about just like a revival of it. But if you made a Punisher game, it had to be very violent because the first game was very violent, and so you'd have to find a way.
Just violent in general, like even in the Marvel comics. Punisher was violent. So.
He literally is just a guy with guns. That's all he is, and weapons. And so, but he's up there in New York. I mean, of course, from the show, Daredevil and Punisher had that crossover. And that was pretty cool. And so, it'd be interesting to see. And so, cause I think, depending how this goes, since Wolverine and Spider-Man are set in the same universe, I'm excited for the Wolverine game just cause I like Wolverine. I think it's a interesting way to, it's going to be interesting to see how they, how that plays out, Yeah.
I mean, I love Wolverine too. I love, I've said this many times. I love X-Men, anything related to X-Men.
Yeah, exactly.
Wolverine. So, but so I should have made this joke earlier.
Oh, what's that?
Could you imagine Daredevil DLC? But the Daredevil is based off of Ben Affleck's Daredevil. It's based off of Ben Affleck's Daredevil from Daredevil 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
That movie was garbage, dude. That movie was garbage. Awful.
Wasn't that the movie?
Can you imagine that?
No, I'm thinking something else.
Could you? That movie spawned Elektra, and that movie was awful too.
Yeah, that movie's awful. Whoops.
It was Jennifer Gardner, right? That played Elektra.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh man, those movies are awful. Could you imagine though? Yeah, they're like, Daredevil DLC coming out. Ben Affleck.
Oh,
but people would be like, "The fuck going on?"
That's so funny. That's hilarious.
It's the events of Ben Affleck. Everything is based off of the events of Ben Affleck's movie.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Dude. What the hell? That'd be amazing. That'd be perfect. 10 out of 10 DLC.
10 out of 10 DLC. Ben Affleck even came back to voice act. No,
it was amazing. Was he even acting in that movie? I shouldn't talk shit. He was probably the only good part of the movie. I don't remember that movie at all. I just remember it being awful.
I liked the Kingpin because if I remember, that was Michael Clark
Douglas.
Michael Clark Duncan. Not Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. Michael Clark Duncan.
You mean Ant-Man? The original Ant-Man? Michael Douglas? He was... Michael Clark Duncan. Yeah.
R.I.P. He passed away, what?
Years ago,
almost like 10 years. Yeah, it's almost a while ago, right?
Yeah, I think he was the best king. He was probably the best part to me. I thought he was a good kingpin. But anyway,
he's not better than what's his name?
Oh yeah, what's his name?
I was about to say Danny DeVito. Just get the names wrong completely.
Danny DeVito as the kingpin. Wow!
Could you imagine? I just now pictured Danny DeVito. Yeah, are you familiar with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
I just imagine him coming in because this is my favorite meme of him just being like, so anyways, I started blasting. I can just imagine the Kingpin saying that. So Spider-Man came and I just started blasting.
He was in a white suit. He's bald. Oh my God.
Do you remember the movie where Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger were supposed to be twins?
Yeah, twins. Yeah,
twins. It's like, what the fuck? God, Danny DeVito is like one of the greatest actors of all time. Like,
he's my God. All right,
I love Danny DeVito.
I have a petition. Put Danny DeVito as the new Kingpin. I call it right now. Great series. Great series. Yeah. Let's do it.
Man, it would be perfect.
I know. Oh my God. Oof.
Anyways, Vincent D'Onofrio or something like that.
Thank you.
His name, right?
That's what it is. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio or something. I forgot his name, but he's a great Kingpin too. He's great. I can't remember his last name.
Vincent Philip D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio?
Yeah.
D'Onofrio? Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah, he's a great Kingpin as well. He's really good.
Yeah. He's an Italian name, whatever. Yeah. He's an Italian guy. So anyways.
Oh my God.
He was my favorite part of
Daredevil.
He was great. He was intimidating. Oh man.
Nice.
Yeah. Now I just got Danny DeVito stuck in my head now. All right.
Oh my God.
So with all of that said and done, Insomniac Games making waves with Spider-Man, having its own almost, it seems like they're going in the direction of having their own Marvel universe. And it got me thinking, and this is sort of a thing I've been thinking about for a while. It's like favorite game developers, like just like identifying like what are some of like the big name developers out there. When you think of video games, do you ever think of just the developers, or is it always just the games? Like when you see a game, you go, oh, I know the developers are, is just like, that game looks cool. Like, I'm interested in like having this conversation with y'all, because this is something I've always thought about. Like, I know for me, young me, never really paid attention about the developers. There were a couple of developers that were always like present, like Halo, you couldn't escape Bungie. Like that was like front and center, because like especially with like Halo 2 and Halo 3, like online play, you would have like the Bungie net or whatever it was called, like would track your stats in Halo. So like if you wanted to track your stats in Halo, you had to go to Bungie net or whatever it was called, and like that was inherently a thing that you would just see with Halo 2 and Halo 3. And so like things like that was always there, but like during like the late 90s, early 2000s, and throughout the aughts, I never really thought about developers. It wasn't really until I got older and started getting interested in the gaming world, like the gaming industry, that I was like, oh yeah, I need to focus on developers, because this developer's making some of my favorite games of all time. This developer's making some awesome games too. And so like, I know young me though never really paid attention to like developers. What about you? Like, did you ever, was it always just like, I'm just going to play this game because it looks cool? Or did you like have a developer that stood out to you when you were younger?
Yeah, so for me, sorry, dogs, they heard somebody come in the door. So I'll say this, that for me, it kind of started similarly to you, where I did not really pay attention to developers just because I did not know, developers were a thing. I literally thought that like a team of people just made it and that was it behind the game's name, so to speak, And it wasn't until later that kind of like you were, like I had certain favorite game series that I started to notice that there were developers behind it. And then I started to kind of pay attention to that. Or I would also be like, oh, I wonder what else they make, or is it just this one game? What else have they put their hands on? And so like, that started for me really the first, like once I started to notice developers and that, there was a name behind them, or, that they made the series of games or just whatever games they have you, then I started to kind of like pay attention, and I would be like, because most of the time I think the way it worked is like, I could be wrong, but in the past, when they'd show off a trailer, they would like, I think I was more focused on just the gameplay or just whatever game was showing off. But then I started to notice like, oh, beforehand, you'll see the logo of the developer or the publisher or whatever. And then when I would see that, I would start to get excited. I'm like, oh, this developer's making a game. I wonder what it is. Let me see. Is it up to version of the whatever previous game that I liked, or is it something new, so to speak? And so now I do pay attention now, especially with certain developers where I'm like, oh, this is cool. Let's see what they're making. It gets me excited now.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I know for me, like, I just talked a little bit about Bungie. Like, there was 3 developers that I consciously knew about from like 2001 to 2010. And I know that 9-year span, but that's also because of like the impact they had on me. Because like all 3 developers, like they created games that really influenced my journey with gaming. So obviously Bungie with Halo, like Halo is and was, in my opinion, one of the best FPSs ever created. Like it just revolutionized everything. Halo 2 just took it and ran with it. And like, again, it can't, like Halo and Bungie, from 2001 to 2007 with Halo 3, like that is just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just that's just a magical trilogy right there in terms of just like what it did for FPS, what it did for consoles, for Xbox, what it did for online gaming for consoles. Like, it's like without Halo, would there, like, I mean, probably, right. But would online gaming be as big if it wasn't for Halo on consoles?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, obviously, Call of Duty came and Fortnite came many, many years later and kind of ran away because Halo just started faltering. But like, it really comes down to like Halo 2 specifically, and the things that what Bungie was doing that really elevated console online gaming. So that was a heavy influence for me because I was, deep into Halo back in those days.
Yeah.
But I was also, it's really funny because all three developers all start with B. I'll start with B. The other one for me is BioWare. BioWare, the developers for Mass Effect, but they also created Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, one of my favorite games of all time. And I remember at the time in 2003, 2004, whenever Star Wars Knights of the Republic came out, I didn't pay attention to the BioWare logo. Even though it popped up every time, I would see it every time I would load the game. I was like, whatever, Star Wars. I love Star Wars. But then a couple of years later, when Xbox Magazine had like this full, like multi-page, like 10-page deep dive into Mass Effect, I was like, oh, Mass Effect, BioWare. I know who BioWare is. Oh my God, they made Star Wars Knights of the Republic. Holy shit, I'm going to pay attention to this. Because I loved Star Wars Knights of the Republic so much that I was like, oh shit, BioWare's next game from the creators of Star Wars Knights of the Republic. BioWare's making the next game. And I was like, holy shit. And then Mass Effect, I don't need to talk about it. Mass Effect's one of my favorite freaking series of all time. I love Mass Effect. So like I started paying attention to BioWare because of that. And then Bethesda, Bethesda Game Studios with Elder Scrolls and Fallout 3. Morrowind was a special place in my heart. It was a game that my dad and I both played, and I would watch him play and we would bond over and stuff. In like 2003, whenever Morrowind came out. And then Elder Scrolls Oblivion was like a launch title for the Xbox 360, and it was like one of the first games I got for the Xbox 360. And so it was like, oh yeah, Bethesda. And then Fallout 3, I was like, oh, Bethesda. And like, so Bethesda started becoming like a normal thing for me because like my dad was obsessed with Bethesda games too. And so we would always see that. And like on some level too, I was conscious of, again, just continue with the B names, Blizzard. I was conscious of Blizzard. Granted, Blizzard has multiple developers under them. Like I couldn't tell you like what team works on Warcraft, what team works on Overwatch and Diablo and stuff. I don't know what their team names are specifically. It's just Blizzard for me. But like becoming conscious of like that as well. So like those early days for me was Bungie, Bethesda, and BioWare for me. And that all three of those really influenced my journey as a gamer, as a person who plays video games. Like it's really interesting to see that where like I ended up gravitating more towards the narrative side rather than just the FPS side, action side. But I still appreciate everything that Halo did as well, because like Halo is just incredible. And then it was like in the teens, when we got to 2010, when I started really getting more interested in video games, where I was like, oh, we're seeing this more and more. And I think a lot of that also has to do with the internet, the internet and social media making all of that forefront to me. Because I started following video game news on the regular, like going to IGN all the time, reading articles on IGN, really following the development of video games. And that's when I started going, oh, this developer made this game and I'm going to follow them because I like that game. Or, it's just an interesting journey for me with that in that regard. Do you have like big developers from your younger days that you're like, man, I love that game? Yeah,
definitely. No, definitely.
Developer.
The developers that of course first come to mind. I remember the first one that I remember myself paying attention to, of course, was, one of my favorite games of all time, Grand Theft Auto 3 with Rockstar. And like, I remember Grand Theft Auto 3 had a certain animation of how Rockstar popped up, and it still happens when you get the remastered edition, where it's like the same way it pops up. And I remember it as a kid loading it up right before the music started for Grand Theft Auto 3. Rockstar is definitely one. Same thing with like Red Dead Redemption, like with the revolver into the logo. Like I remember that so much. So that's like something that I always remember, with that yellowish sticker with the R and the star right there. And I'm like, oh, this is, it's interesting to see what they're going to make for Rockstar. That was definitely one growing up that I remember.
Would it be bad to admit this?
What?
I never thought about Rockstar until GTA 5.
Wow, that's interesting.
Like Rockstar was never on my radar. Like because like at the time, like, in their early aughts with GTA 3, San Andreas and stuff, they were exclusive to PlayStation.
Yeah.
I never had a PlayStation. Like growing up.
That makes sense.
Like, I did play like Vice City and San Andreas on PC.
Yeah.
But I only played them because I was like, oh, people love GTA.
Yeah.
They're on PC. We'll play it. Never thought about Rockstar. And even with GTA 4, when it came on Xbox 360, I was just like, oh, it's just a GTA. It's just Grand Theft Auto. It wasn't really until Grand Theft Auto 5 that, and again, becoming more conscious of just like, oh, Rockstar makes these games. That's why people love them. That's why people love Rockstar games. But like, I'm still not a Grand Theft Auto person. Yeah. And like, as much as I love and appreciate Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically, I'm not really a Red Dead Redemption person either.
Yeah.
So I'm just not a Rockstar person. So like Rockstar was never on my radar. Yeah. I never thought about it until like just how big GTA 5 got. Exactly. Which is probably wild to say, but like I think that just goes to the point that like if you're not interested, then you don't kind of acknowledge in a way. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So, because like for me, it definitely stuck with me just because of how much I enjoyed like Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, just like certain games. And so like Rockstar was one for me. Back in the day when I was into sports, I mean, EA was another one because you always heard EA. It's in the game type of thing. Well,
EA Sports is just like the publishers, right? Or just the brand within EA though.
Is
it?
Well,
it's different. It's still like different developer teams, right?
Yeah, so I guess so. It might be like a Blizzard thing where you don't really know who the developer was.
I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I remember the EA Sports thing. They're like EA Sports. It's in the game.
Yeah, exactly. That was like
oh, cool. They need to bring that back. They don't have that anymore, do they?
No, I don't think they do. I think they just go, give us your money. No,
give us your. You see this FC 2024 or whatever it's called. Give us $6,000, please, to unlock the cards or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, so I would remember stuff like that just because I played sports games a lot more back then. Another one that I remember would be well, I don't know if they'd be the developer, but Naughty Dog. I guess Naughty Dog was one.
Naughty Dog is the developers, yeah.
I always remembered that paw print that they had in their logo, and I would just see the right there, for like Jack and Daxter. I'd remember that, or like what is it? Was Sly Cooper developed by Naughty Dog? No, they might have been Insomniac.
They were not Insomniac. They're the developers of Ghost of Tsushima, I believe.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
But
I'll look it up real quick.
But I just remember, Naughty Dog for that logo. That logo is very memorable to me for some reason. And then the one that I would remember, I'm trying to think if there was another one. I remember for some reason the 2K logo before BioShock. Like I remember that just because of the animation that was in front of the game. And so like
Sly Cooper was Sucker Punch, and they did Ghost of Tsushima. So
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so I'd say like Naughty Dog was definitely one that I remember from like my childhood, just because I would always see the Naughty Dog with the paw print, and I'd be like, oh, this is so cool. They made Jack and Daxter, and I love that game. Same thing with Insomniac for Ratchet and Clank. And I remember that logo before the game booting up, and I'd be like, Insomniac, Ratchet and Clank, I love this game. And then, those are just like a couple, after a while I started to pay attention, and then I started to associate them with like my favorite games. And so if I did see a game trailer and I would see the logo, I'd be like, is this another Ratchet and Clank or another, Jack and Daxter, or is this something new? And I'd be interested, so to speak, as I got older.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's as the age comes and you become more aware, especially if you're interested in the game industry.
Exactly.
You become more aware. And I think and again, I do think a lot of it also the social media and internet can't be said enough. Like you and I grew up in a time where we got to see just how, and we're still living in this time, this technological revolution where, before our generation, like it makes it sound old, the internet was a very like niche thing, right? Or like early 90s, late 80s, like when the internet was starting to form, it was like specific niche things. You had dial-up that took forever to connect, and you had only like message boards and stuff. And so as time has gone on, and like, the internet only being around for 40 years now, maybe a little bit longer.
Wow.
Yeah, we're old. It's like, just this idea of social media, especially like around 2008 when MySpace and Twitter really took off. I guess MySpace was a little bit before that. And then you saw Twitter come, and then you saw Reddit and all this. And it was just like this growing way to gain information and really connect with developers too, and seeing what developers are doing. I think we were in a magical time where we got to see kind of that growth. Because I think in a lot of ways, if we didn't see this growth of social media and the internet, I think we would be having a different conversation. Obviously, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation now anyways. But it'd be a totally different conversation, I think, like just in terms of like knowing the developers and all of that. Because I think a lot of times too, social media is a double-edged sword. It allows the developers to connect, and it allows the audience to interact with the developers for good or bad.
Exactly.
We've seen really bad cases on the audience side, and we've seen some bad cases, like, you know, how Blizzard handled a couple of things, like the Blizzard's you all have cell phones, right? Yeah. Just like their fallout with that, and just the general like fallout with Overwatch stuff and their poor messaging with that, and trying to use social media to cover it, to like kind of lessen it, but it only made it worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
bad.
But yeah, so I guess my next question for you, what are, I guess to like start this conversation now for like today, do you have favorite developers that you're like, yes, I'm always going to play a game from this developer?
Of course, I still have like Rockstar that I'll consider and like play it. That's one.
I'm over Rockstar. Fuck Rockstar.
Another one I'll say is, because I know they publish a lot of games, but Devolver Digital is definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, they're mostly just publisher. But
whenever I see their logo, I'm just like, this is going to be an interesting game. Outside of them, I'm trying to think of like all the games that I've played recently, if I can think of any developer. Really, those two, I think, are mainly the ones that like I'll pay attention. Or I'll say that, of course, like Naughty Dog is another one that I always look at, even though I never played the... Naughty Dog did Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even though I haven't played that, like I'll pay attention to see what it's about and be like, okay, let me give this some of my attention. That or the one, and this is another interesting one because he's a developer, but like even when you see anything, but he kind of became like an enigma, almost Kojima, like. Kojima's
a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Kojima transcends like developer and just like it's fascinating. The Kojima journey is fascinating.
Exactly, and so like I'm always willing to pay attention to see what he's working on for some. Like he just became something, like you said, something bigger than a developer. It's like this almost like just. Like unfathomable like entity
Force.
Or something.
He's just like this weird. He's an enigma of the video game industry where I think he is the rarity, not the norm. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
No, definitely. And so that's like one that I'll pay attention to see what he's doing, and I'm always interested to learn, because it always feels like he's working on stuff in an alternate dimension, and he's just like, I've been working on something. Here's this, and it's just interesting like that. But those are the ones that come to mind for me. What about you?
Yeah, man, I have a whole list of game. Like, you know, I've made it known throughout the year that I'm a big Arcane fan. I love Arcane, whether it's Arcane Leon or Arcane Austin, because I love Prey. I love Dishonored. Deathloop was great. Redfall. But no, like even with Redfall, like I still love Arcane games. Like I'm still interested in seeing what they're going to do next. Like Arcane is probably one of my favorite video game studios right now. You know, of course, I think it's more nostalgia for me than it is, and we'll see with the next Dragon Age game. But still, BioWare, like, I'm gonna play it. Like, BioWare hasn't had a hit since Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a decade ago now, 2014. Dragon Age Inquisition, which won Game of the Year at like the Game Awards and stuff. But then Mass Effect Andromeda didn't hit, and then Anthem, if you remember Anthem, completely just failed. Failed. They were trying to they were trying to capitalize on like Destiny and stuff, and it just did not work. And so Anthem, you know, so they haven't had a hit since 2014. It's almost been 10 years now, going on 10 years. And if Dragon Age, the next Dragon Age Dreadwolf comes out next year, which it may not come out next year, maybe 2015, because they just recently, like so many other game studios, had massive amounts of layoffs a couple months ago. Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen really with that? You know, this may be the nail in the coffin for BioWare. Who knows? But true. I'm going to play Dragon Age Dreadwolf because one, I love Dragon Age, and I have hope that BioWare will create an awesome game. All the original people at BioWare are gone at this point, but like, you know, the name still has meaning. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
I still have faith in that name brand. Mm-hmm. You know, I hate to say it. I'm going to go with negative here. I don't give a shit that anything that Bungie makes anymore. Is that bad to say? No,
that makes sense. I mean, it's like when's the last time that Bungie actually like pulled you into like release? I don't want to say release something good, but release something that was memorable, if that makes sense, you know? Because I mean, Bungie, I think when they first started with Halo, like it was like you were in it, you know, we were both in it. But then ever since then, like the last Halo kind of really didn't do so well, and then the online multiplayer whole thing.
Well, like Bungie hasn't made a Halo game since.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Since Halo Reach, like. They've just had Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 since then.
True. I guess
I don't give a shit about Destiny. Like I don't like Destiny at all.
Yeah. So maybe it might be a disconnect there. Maybe that's what it is. Just because I don't really care about Destiny as well either. And so I don't really care for what they're doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, they have a chance, like, you know, with Marathon, their next game. Mm-hmm. That's not Destiny. That's also just a game that they made back in the 90s as well. Like, they're bringing that back, so there's a chance that they might do something different. But like, I don't know if you've been following the news this past week with Bungie, just like all the massive layoffs and all the bullshit that's going on there. Like, it does not. I don't know if Bungie is ever going to be like a studio that I'm going to gravitate towards again, and that's a shame. Like, I'm not interested in Destiny, but I don't know what they could make otherwise.
Exactly,
because I honestly don't feel like Destiny has the same impact on the gaming world as Halo did. And maybe I'm talking out my ass here, but like, I don't feel like Destiny had that splash that like Halo did. I think Destiny is good for a live service game. Like, I think it's a good example to look at and go, oh yeah, the live service is working here, and even then it's not working there because like they didn't meet the reason they had all their layoffs was that they didn't get enough revenue this year or whatever from their last expansion and shit. So anyways, but like, yeah, Bungie, I wish I could say Bungie was on my list of developers that I get excited about, but I don't. I'm getting excited more and more for Insomniac. Like, because like Insomniac, am I saying it right? Yeah. I'm getting more and more excited because like I like the Spider-Man games, and then of course I love Ratchet. I've loved Ratchet since the first Ratchet game. Like back then I didn't pay attention at all. But then it's like, as I've gotten older again, like, oh, Ratchet and Clank. Oh, do you remember Sunset Overdrive? Oh, Sunset Overdrive is fucking great. That's also by Insomniac. Like, my at the time, I was like, oh, they made Ratchet and Clank. I fucking love Ratchet and Clank. I'll play Sunset Overdrive. And then Sunset Overdrive was like the foundation for like the movement of Spider-Man, which came out a couple years later, which is really funny because Sunset Overdrive was an Xbox exclusive.
That's so funny.
At the time. But yeah, so like Sunset Overdrive was a great game. Everybody should go play it. So like I'm paying attention more and more with Insomniac. And what really got me started thinking about favorite developers was Remedy. I've been a Remedy fan unconsciously since Max Payne, because like I love Max Payne 1. I love Max Payne 2. I didn't really pay attention after I played Max Payne 1, Max Payne 2, and that was the early 2000s. Didn't really pay attention to anything they created until Quantum Break. And then Alan Wake. I played Alan Wake in 2010. Yeah. So Alan Wake was before Quantum Break, but 2010 Alan Wake, loved Alan Wake. But even then, like Remedy, my dumb brain was like, oh, it's just Alan Wake. Didn't connect with Max Payne.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, oh yeah, Remedy made a Max Payne, but I was like, these games are so different that they don't really feel the same. But then Quantum Break came out, and I was like, Remedy, they've made some of my favorite games, because I have fond memories of Max Payne,
Yeah.
Alan Wake. I loved Quantum Break. Like, I'm probably one of the few people in the world that loved Quantum Break. It was like Remedy's first, I shouldn't say first attempt, because they started doing it in Alan Wake, like this meta hybrid where they had live action stuff in the video game on top of the video game stuff. Quantum Break really leaned into that, where you had, do you remember the actor Sean Ashmore?
Yeah.
Iceman from X-Men?
Yeah.
He was the main character. They also had like, they had actual like TV episodes that you would watch and stuff, and like they were like an hour long and stuff.
Wow.
So they would like, and they would transition from you playing the game as Sean, and then you would go into and then you would watch this episode, and they had like actors from Game of Thrones and a bunch of other people as well in it.
Wow.
And like, I loved it, just like the way it worked.
Yeah.
And then Control, of course, came out. Fucking love Control, and it's like Remedy probably is up there as one of my favorite companies, just because like I love everything they've made.
Oh yeah.
And so, like with Alan Wake 2, man, it's just hidden for me. And I bring this all back to Alan Wake, baby. Ooh, Alan Wake 2, so good. But no, like, so there's that. One last company, developers that I really pay attention to, though. And they deserve all the praise, because I was just looking at their list, and there's not a single bad game on this list. But that is Supergiant Games. Let me give you a list. Let me give you the list. 2011, Bastion. 2011, Bastion. I don't know if you remember that game. Game's dope as hell. It has a distinct style to it that I love. 2014, Transistor. Again, distinct style, distinct narrative to it that I absolutely love. Pyre, 2017. You know, it's essentially a soccer game. With a like visual novel stuff going around that's really interesting. Like, I love the world, the soccer-esque games. I guess maybe it's more like, no, Rocket League is a soccer game too. So it's like, I don't really, it's basically just soccer for Pyre, but it's really freaking good. And then of course, 2020, one of my favorite games of all time already, Hades. So Supergiant Games, they have a very small list of games, and none of them are bad. They have Hades 2. They have Hades 2 coming out, coming up next. But like, Supergiant Games has never missed. Like, their games are pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and they're so damn fun. And they have a lot of heart to them. They have a lot of just really cool stuff. And yeah, Supergiant Games, man, up there as one of my favorite developers. Like, it's just, they're just so damn good. And like, it's not something I really noticed until I played Hades, and I was like, shit, I have liked every Supergiant game. Holy crap. So it was one of those things that you just had that realization where you're like, oh shit, I love these developers. Cause like, yeah, I've loved every single game by them. And I think that's the way it goes for a lot of people, where they just realize one day, they're like, shit, this company has made all these games that I love. I love this developer. I will play anything by them. Like, for me, like, as much as I would love to love Naughty Dog, I don't really care about the Uncharted games, and I'm not the biggest fan of Last of Us. I think Last of Us are good games, but I don't get excited by Naughty Dog stuff. I'm probably one of the few people in the world that will say that, but like, Naughty Dog does not excite me at all. Say it's not quite to the level of Bungie, where I think Bungie just, I used to be excited for it. It's just Naughty Dog was just like, I'll play their games, but I don't really care if I ever play them.
Gotcha. So, makes sense.
And we've been going on for a while now. This is almost like 2 hours, right?
Yeah, somewhere it's almost 2 hours.
Yeah. So wind us down, you son of a bitch.
Well, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to the Respawn Please podcast, which... Is it all right to, I guess, are we announcing it here that going forward?
Yeah, and now, go announce it. Okay. Going forward, no more being live. We're
no more being live.
Sons of bitches.
So we're just going to do recorded versions of the podcast, which will be available every Monday on our YouTube at Respawn Please Podcast. They usually drop the video version at 9 a.m. On our YouTube, as well as the audio version drops everywhere you get podcasts. So if you just look up Respawn Please Podcast, wherever you get them, wherever you get the podcast, will pop up there. And make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of future video for us. And follow us on social media at Respawn Please Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And thanks for tuning in.